This special Toni Kroos farewell episode of the Managing Madrid Podcast is brought to you by DoubleTree by Hilton Hotel Chicago Magnificent Mile. Tucked between Magnificent Mile shopping and Navy Pier attractions, their location makes exploring Chicago easy. A 10-minute walk from 360 Chicago, Millennium Park, and the Chicago Riverwalk for dining and riverboat cruising. Relax with a cocktail in the lobby or enjoy a drink after a rooftop swim in the summer. To keep your workout routine on the road, book a fitness room with in-room equipment or visit the fitness center. Chicago, we're coming for you, baby. Preseason, USA, Real Madrid, Managing Madrid. Keep your eyes peeled and book your stay at Chicago Magnificent Mile DoubleTree by Hilton.
Nice article in the Managing Madrid blog. Wonderful lads that do a great job there. And worth reading about that man there. Karim Benzema needs to rest, and the numbers reveal why.
Times ended up almost looking like a 6-3-1. Some very good writing about that on the Managing Madrid website. Cross-great podcast as well. Of course, Fede Valverde was a huge part of the equation.
All right, we're recording this a solid 10 minutes after wiping away our tears, watching Toni Kroos leave the Bernabeu for the last time ever. Everyone standing, the whole crowd, Florentino, Isco, his kids crying, him coming off, him crying, we're crying. It's a sad day, guys. I don't know who Real Madrid played today, what the score was, what happened on the field. I don't care. I am just devastated, but also thankful for an incredible career that graced the Bernabeu for exactly a decade. Toni Kroos leaves the Bernabeu for the last time. Post-game showtime. Sid is here. Hridyam is here to join me, Kiyan Sobhani, to talk about whatever we're feeling. It's probably going to be less about the game and more about just whatever. Sid, we'll start with you. Enjoying the sunshine, enjoying your dinner.
Yeah.
Talk us through the emotions, bro.
Yeah, I mean, I just had to come outside. If I'm going to have to talk about something that's sad, I'm not doing it inside. Not doing it with my shirt on. I'm just doing it outside shirtless. It's too sad for me to do it with inside a depressing little building with electronics and artificial light around me. I need the sun. I could use the beach now too, man. Talking about Kroos is hard. And, I need everything to talk about this. But I mean, that was as I was joking before we started, that was a tough game to watch. And even watching Kroos, it was hard, man. Our points, it's maybe testament to how great he is I'm watching them build up. I'm like, nah, bro, you're not going to be here, Jude. You got to drop, bro. Get off the pitch. Just start practicing. Don't get too used to receiving the ball from Kroos from the 6. I was seriously watching Jude receive it with Kroos behind him. I'm like, dude, what's the point? You're never going to get to do this again. This is just going to make you have weird expectations for how easy football is. Just get used to it. Take the training wheels off. That's really what it felt like. It felt like I was watching a team go at the run out with the training wheels for the last time, which is such a scary feeling. But he's really we get one more game competitive. And it was just so weird then in that context. I'm like, all right, if this is a training session, dead rubber. We don't need you, man. You're just making it too easy for them. Which this was it that way. You would think you'd be happy to watch him one last time, but no, it's just I'm just sad. I'm upset.
If this was Luis Enrique, he would have benched him at halftime. We gotta learn. We gotta learn how to play without him at some point. We gotta learn right now. And I was thinking if this was Laporta and Kroos was like, I'm retiring, he'd be like, no, please stay. He'd convince him to stay and be like, all right, we're selling you. You're not retiring here. It's our decision. You're leaving on our terms. But honestly, man, I think the reason you felt that way, Sid, it's kind of the same reason I felt that way too. I think it's because you just don't see people leaving at this level. It's just extremely rare. So when you think of legends leaving and it's their farewell tour and they're retiring, what you think of is usually okay, this is a goodbye. You've declined the last year or two. It's sad, but it is time to move on. It's just no one really feels like it's actually time to move on which, to be fair, is exactly what he wanted. He wanted to leave like this. He didn't want to leave on a decline. It's just, and you know me, Sid, like I always try to reframe it into positive things. All you can say is like, we're just grateful, man. How rare is it to see a Real Madrid player leave out on top like this? First of all, legends just rarely retire here. That's number one. And if they do, it's usually not at their peak. He's retiring at his peak. So that's the summit. He's in, and could be even, we haven't even talked about the Champions League final yet. Well, I don't know what we're going to be saying after that, but it could be something a different level even. And then who knows after the Euro. So it's not completely over yet, but we do know it was over at the Bernabeu. That's for sure. Hridyam, what were you feeling? You're on mute.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, because it's like I wasn't watching the game. I was just watching Kroos in that game, just sighing after every successful long ball he did to Carvajal. And I was like, why are you leaving? Like, you're so good. You're still like literally at worst a top 3 central midfielder in the world right now. Possibly the best right now as well. He's at I think he's having probably his best season of his career, and it's just like, as you said, it's so rare for players to leave out the way he's leaving, and it's like you can go on for so long. And I don't think Kroos wanted to leave. He just wanted to play a bit more. When he was getting ready to be substituted, he just he took that free kick, he took that corner. He wanted the game to go on as well, but then ultimately he realized, hey, you know what, it is time. And I was talking to one of my friends from college, and he is in Spain right now just for vacation. He was watching it in a pub with his family, and when Kroos was leaving, when he was like getting his applause and everything, and you saw his kids crying, I think he said his mum got emotional. She's not even a Madrid fan, and she got emotional by the fact that because I think obviously such a big occasion, such an incredible player, obviously so emotional as well. Yeah, I mean, I didn't want him to leave. It's as simple as that. He's possibly my favorite player of all time alongside Modric. So it's too soon now.
You can see at the bottom there the Toni Kroos quote after the game. He says, "I was strong until I saw my children. That killed me." That's often what happens to me too in like sad situations. I'm not like I am sad, but I don't outwardly show emotion until I see someone else like crying. That's when it hits me. Like, and I totally get that, because we know Kroos. I mean, we don't know him. Maybe one day when he comes on this podcast, that's the only silver lining about him retiring, is now we're gonna get him on the podcast. The campaign is now officially begun, but he's not a guy who shows a lot of emotion, right? Like even when he wins trophies, he's and that's part of maybe what makes him so great is his stoicism and his ability to stay grounded. So it's very rare for him to show emotion. Like, you see him show emotion if the ref makes a terrible call. That's always entertaining. But he was pretty strong in terms of like not showing emotion, just for lack of a better word. I don't even know if that's the actual word I'm looking for, but yeah,
He's
you
just
saw
stoic.
yeah. But seeing like that was an incredible scene when the camera actually pans to his children on the sideline and they're just bawling. That's like, wow. It's just completely gut wrenching. Sad day, man. I don't know how else to say it. Sad, beautiful, all the above.
It's the fact that we lost Benzema and then we still finished with 95 points, and he kind of like helped the youngsters get there. The youngsters helped him, but he really platformed them. That's just whack. Like, if you a year ago you said we're gonna finish with 95 points, maybe win the Champions League, and he's gonna retire after Benzema leaves, I wouldn't believe it. I'd just be like, what the hell? Like, did you just like make this up for like, is this some fan fiction you made up for Real Madrid? Like, but it's reality. And yeah, reality sometimes really is stranger than fiction.
when you think about the other stuff that if you would have told us that, that's one thing to tell us you get 95 points without Benzema. It's another thing when you tell us like, oh, by the way, 3 ACL injuries. Oh, by the way, Tchouaméni and Camavinga both missed a month at the same time. Oh, by the way, Vinicius out like 2 months, whatever it was. You go all the way back to the beginning when Matt wrote that article about the path to being successful this season, because you have 3 of the best dribblers in the world in Bellingham, Rodrigo, and Vinicius. You can piece together the lack of goal scoring and still win. And he got a lot of criticisms for that. And I think he got pretty vindicated by the end of it, like just seeing our position now. But going back to Kroos, and I think and I don't really know if I want to have this conversation right now specifically. It might be too soon. It might be more preserved for after the Champions League final and probably something for the summer. But the path to succeeding without him the same way we succeeded without Benzema is an interesting discussion to have, because on one hand, unlike the Benzema situation, we are loaded in midfield, but we just really still, I don't want to rehash it now. Sid, Lucas, and I had a huge segment on this exclusively for our members yesterday, so I don't want to do it again. I don't want to be repetitive about it, but yeah, that's an interesting conversation to kind of elaborate. I'm going to take a quick super chat here. Ramkey says, you guys know how much I love Kroos. The entire match was blurry for me as I couldn't hold back tears. Hopefully he is our future manager one day. I think he's going to have like a pretty solid media career. I don't know if it's necessarily on TV or if it's more like the Jeff Teague, JJ Redick route, where it's like he clearly knows his craft and he's very level-headed and his analysis is bang on. I think he's going to have a fun kind of like media career in that sense. But I don't know for sure, because he's not like an extroverted person that you would kind of pinpoint as like, this guy is like, loud and you would be a media guy. But I think he's going to be just a really good level-headed analyst and just someone who would be really interesting to hear speak. My only regret about this is like, I just wish he would do his podcast in English. That would be amazing. But because I have no idea what he's saying. Maybe AI can help in that situation. Sid, you can kind of tell me how I can just.
They actually do have these air chat, like they got these live translation things now. So like, it's getting there where if you don't know the same language as someone, you could just talk to them real time. Air chat.
Okay, air chat noted.
I think I'm not 100% sure, but I believe it does it.
There's like actually nothing from this game, right? I mean, I have notes. I'm almost embarrassed to read any notes about this game.
Just one thing to add to what you were saying about Matt. Honestly, looking back, I had a feeling it could happen, but I didn't have Matt's conviction. That was I didn't realize he said it with such conviction. Because like when I saw the team, I'm like, all right, like we're literally the most stacked squad in Europe or at joint outside the striker. So the odds of having a good season are high. One, the ACLs made it harder to believe, but let's just take those out and just look at the squad without a striker. And even then, some people were low because of the lack of a striker. I was lower because I just thought, like, look at the teams that did it were just super structured without a striker. 2011 Barcelona, and I said this at the start of the season on the pod, but 2021 Manchester City was a precedent. Like, they didn't have a striker, no Aguero, no Haaland. They had the Fodens, De Bruynes. They had a lot of advanced players. They played the midfielders and won. They controlled. We had Carlo, though, not Pep. When you don't have a striker, you need to control the game. I was concerned we wouldn't control it, and we didn't always control it, but we did defend really well. And I wasn't sure if we would defend so well, even with the youngsters. Like, I wasn't sure if Carlo would put it together. Like, we've had times when maybe not everyone's perfect, when the structure gets even worse, though, because he doesn't give us a basic structure. Personnel aren't great. We get the 4-0 against Man City. So I was just not sure, like, even with all this talent, does the dynamic work out in a way where we optimize it on both ends, where we actually defend well enough to take advantage of our midfield dominance? Because if we give up goals, having this great at midfield, no, the lack of a striker will be apparent. And the defense somehow put it together enough. It was like the attack was always good, but if you start every game 1-0, it would have been bad. It's just the defense, I thought, just put enough together. And that I wasn't expecting after the ACLs. Like, but I will say before the ACLs, like, the squad wasn't that bad. Like, we were talking about Jude as the fourth attacker. There was some cityness. After the injuries, I didn't expect it at all. I'm sure Matt would probably say something along those lines, that the injuries definitely made it more surprising. But impressive conviction from him, and we had the precursors. It's just like, and that's why I make Kroos' retirement is even harder to accept, because like most of the guys who like controlled games like this did it with coaches who saw the game just like them, who catered their game to them. Thiago, maybe not as much Thiago. Flick was gung-ho, but Thiago was under Pep. We got, obviously, the whole Xavi, Iniesta, Busquets, Rodri, they all played for Pep. So a lot of these guys played for Pep. We did it under Carlo. We did it the Carlo way. We went and played our free-roaming bullshit at the Etihad. We did it our way, but Kroos still had that statistical outlier season. And that's why I respect him a lot, because I really feel like when you play a style that's maybe a little bit at odds with the way your like club culture is, it is a little bit at odds, let's be honest. And that's what I'm writing about in my piece. Like, we were so against like settled possession structure before Kroos. Like, we were just not about it as a club. Xabi wasn't even half the player in settled possession as Kroos. Maybe the same long ball player, but not the same circulator, like switch flank to flank, evade, not even close press resistance wise. I'm happy to say that. I think he'd agree. So just in that regard, I think it's even harder tactically. Like, well done that we got here, but just we're not as cohesively planning for Kroos to control games. He just does it. Like at Barcelona, they're planning so all those guys could control the games. At City, they plan so Rodri gets to take those touches. Here, it just happens. Like, it just happens on the pitch, which, and I don't know, man. Like, I wanted to see him with Mbappe in that regard only. Like, it's like, damn, we could get better, bro. Just win one more treble. Like, win a treble. Like, you haven't won one with us. You only won one with Bayern, bro. Come on. But yeah, those are just some of the things going through my head, between what you said about Matt and this last game. Like, it really is historic. And I don't think people realize, like, it's not easy to control games if your coach doesn't, like, plan for it. I don't know how much people realize. What do you guys think about that? I want to hear it.
I mean, not much to add, but I think one thing is, it's been used before a lot. Kroos is like the coach on the pitch. Players literally look for him when they're under pressure. I wrote about this in my article. Every time Real Madrid succumbed to a little bit of pressure, every time the ball went to the left towards Toni Kroos, so that, Tony knows his business. He knows what to do. He's just like, he just builds structure out of nothing. And he is, in some ways, he is the structure. Like, he just doesn't really have that nervousness about him. Like, oh, you know what? 3 players are pressing me at once. I'm just going to take one touch, move past all of them, and just make a pass, a line breaking pass to Bellingham or Vinny or whoever. It's literally second nature to him. Everything is second nature to him, and I think that is the most important thing. I think even Rodri, Thiago, whoever has played under Pep, I don't think they've got to this level of second nature-ness like Kroos, where he just like controls the game for the team, with the team. And it's just, I don't really have more words than what Sid said, but yeah, I think he is that coach on the pitch that you need in every team. And next season it's going to be like, who's the coach? You know what I mean? It's going to be a different system. Obviously, you can't play the same way without Kroos. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Well, the leadership aspect, I think, is underrated with him, because he doesn't bark the same way Ramos does. Obviously, it's a different kind of leadership, but it's the serenity and the leading by example with him. Doesn't matter how loud he is, how quiet he is. When the rest of the team sees his cold blood at the Etihad, when the team is under incredible pressure, it's infectious, and it gives you confidence to like, okay, this guy is leading us out of this absolute war zone. I honestly, I'm genuinely concerned about the post-Kroos era. And like, I know all the counter arguments to this. Everyone says it. Like, look, Kiyan, we got Camavinga, we got Fede, we got Jude. Like, we're fine. And I don't think you're wrong, but I'm watching Kroos play game after game in the most hostile and the most important matches against the best teams. And he's sometimes just like the only guy who's just kind of floating around, completely unbothered by the situation. Like, I keep referring to the Etihad, but it wasn't just the Etihad. It was Bayern 2 games, it was Leipzig 2 games, and countless of games like in the past. So as stacked as we are in that position, we do need, and it kind of gets thrown around a little bit too much, in my opinion, when people say La Pausa, La Pausa, La Pausa. You need someone who does that. It gets thrown around a little bit too much, in my opinion, but there is truth to it. You need someone who can actually control the tempo the way Kroos did. Modric is obviously the guy who can do it, and that's why we actually have been so successful when Modric comes in for Kroos in those situations, because he just takes over Kroos and is incredible. Another solid case for him to renew. Hopefully he does. But I think we can just take a moment also to just pause right now and just reflect, like, what the heck just happened? The fact that Kroos and Modric, the 2 greatest center midfielders in club history, coincided the way they did is an unbelievable thing, like, that we have to be grateful for. We went years before Modric came along without really having much muscle or brains in midfield. Sorry to say. Zidane retired. Guti was the one genius we had in midfield. We had a few bruisers in the team. De La Red came along. He could have been that guy, but
nobody who could dribble, shoot, pass, and defend at the same time, right? All 4.
Yeah, it's unbelievably rare, right? Like, you think about the 90s, we had players like Seedorf and Laudrup who came along, were really good in midfield. The 2000s, after the Galacticos, it was a pretty dark stretch. Xabi came along. And then after Xabi, we had, Modric and Kroos. And then, but that, just the fact that we had them both coincide together as the 2 greatest CMs in our history is an incredibly great thing to be just grateful for. And it's coming to an end soon. And
hey, I agree. You really skipped out on Ozil. I guess you didn't count him as a CM, huh?
No, sure. Yeah, Ozil too. Like, yeah, he's a little bit more advanced in that sense.
Sami Khedira ratio?
Oh, yeah. Sami Khedira.
No, I think he's an example of someone who was like good, but like you want more Modric quality than Khedira at like regularly playing in next to Alonso at Real Madrid.
Yeah,
I'm glad for Florentino like decided to pull trigger on both and just go all in on like we're building around these guys instead of Ozil's, and like instead of Ozil to Ronaldo, let's build around Kroos to Marcelo to Ronaldo. Just change instead of route 1, go route just go a little more indirect. Because, I mean, as I talked about this on the Long Cruise pod, but we really needed to be able to like slow games down and control them. And I mean, that's why we're scared. Do we want to go back to like winning 1 Champions League in like 5 years with Ronaldo? Because that's what it was before Kroos. It was 1 in 6 years, right? 2009, 10, 10, 11, 11, 12, 12, 13, 13, 14, 14, 15. 6 years, 1 Champions League. That's a pretty bad turnout. Like for Real Madrid.
For us, yeah. But like the thing is, I will say this, and Ancelotti said that this is the best group he's ever managed, which is saying a lot. But we're, from a squad planning standpoint for the future, this is the best I've ever seen us operate ever. Like, I've only been watching since '98, but I have to be a historian for my book, so I've gone back through it. Our squad building right now, like the fact that we were able to balance win now plus future planning, we're incredibly set up. So again, this goes back, like, you can't really complain too much about the post-Kroos era because we've done our job in having a succession plan. It's just, my point is that it's not like, going back to what Hridyam said, you have to play a different way. You're just not going to play the same way without Kroos. And that has to be the case, because if it wasn't, it would mean Kroos was just an average guy who wasn't an absolute unicorn. The reason why you have to play differently is because there's just nobody like him ever. Like, it's incredibly rare to find. Kroos comes along, if we're lucky, every 50 to 75 years. That's what we're talking about here. So, we're just, and I don't, like, Sid, you did an entire Kroos podcast. I did a Kroos tribute podcast. We talked about him yesterday. There's a million Kroos articles. Hridyam wrote about him. Sid has a massive Kroos article coming out. I have a Kroos article that came out. Matt wrote about him. Sam Leverage wrote about him. So I don't know how much like more we can actually say, but it's just like these are all things that are just kind of running through my mind right now as I watch him crying coming off the field with his kids. It's crazy. What happened on the field today? Anyone remember?
Dude, I just remember like seeing Kroos pass, and I'm like, dude, get off the pitch, man! Like, stop! Like, I don't know why.
What are his numbers today?
First time I got annoyed seeing him complete a pass because it's like, first time.
I was gonna pull up his numbers. Okay. If you want to do it, you can do it. It's fine.
Well, I just have them here. 122 touches, 40 more than the second most on the field. So by far and away the most involved player, highest usage player. 97 passing accuracy, 97%. Let's see his long balls, 13 of 15 long balls, 110 passes, 3 key passes, 2 tackles, couple interceptions. You know, the usage. When I was writing my article the other day, like what stuck out to me going through his historical numbers is his usage. Like he's a high volume player, right? It's not just that he has a high passing accuracy. It's like he's constantly on the ball, constantly passing, constantly involved. Just an extremely high usage player. So gonna be missed, man. Gonna be missed.
Yeah, I don't even know what else to say, man. I mean, like I said, I don't know if I've ever felt sad watching him complete a pass, except this game. I'm just like, I don't want to see you pass. Like, just do it against Dortmund, and I'm cool, man. Like, I get it. You don't want to play. I'm cool off that now. Like, I don't need to see you tease us like in a practice session against Real Betis. Felt like a practice session today. Like literally like a fitness driven practice session. Like they literally just wanted to get there. Like they just wanted to make sure, like when they try to control the ball, it controls the way they assumed it would. Like, you know, like they're not rusty. They wanted to make sure their touch was fine. Maybe even try to be cute in some of those moves. Try like some cute moves in front of goal instead of going route one. Don't try to be as direct. Like try and distract the defense with your moves. Like try to be more intricate. Yeah, I mean, another thing, I think what we all worry about is like with Kroos and the pause is important because like when ultimately in professional football, like I don't think people realize the only reason teams don't play man-to-man coverage is because all these players are so good technically. But the reason most teams in history don't control games that well is because it's very hard to escape man-to-man coverage, just period, no matter who you are. Like even if you have a large technical advantage over someone, man-to-man coverage allows you to essentially like neutralize that by just chasing them around, forcing them to take more actions. It's just a way to like neutralize advantages through physical effort. Now, pausa is important because it then neutralizes the physical effort brought by man-to-man advantage. Like whether it's like one touch to find more time that the man-to-man coverage tried to deny, or like making a pass that gives you more space, which then also gives you more time because when you find a guy in space, he has more time before the opposition get to him. My point is, like when you lose that, like a lot of our guys I see them maybe trying to play faster. Like just, you know, when someone presses you, just take more touches. Like you see him running at you, you just release the ball sooner. And Kroos's approach was never that. It was always to even just keep it slow. Like it was always to play at his own pace. Even Modric to some degree will start taking touches faster because he plays a little more inward with the tempo of the game. Like he just has been a faster player than Kroos. Always been someone who varied the tempo. Kroos has always been more of a one tempo guy. He might play it more directly sometimes, but more of a one tempo guy. And so it's just scary to imagine, like, you know, going up against a press. And it's never fun to watch your team struggle against a press. And like, I think we all know we're going to watch that a lot more often. No, like the thing is, as a club, we're not like going to jump. Like Carlo's not going to become Xabi Alonso or Guardiola tomorrow. He's still going to do a good job. But we might just like have taken the structure he gave for granted. Might be why we're so scared, to be honest. Like we might have not realized the extent to which like he makes up for strategic deficiencies that exist, or things we don't think about strategically because he exists. We have to think about, and that whole process is not easy. It's difficult. And like he kickstarted it. He really, like him, Zidane is when we really began building up. Him and Carlo too as a sixth and Carlo's first spell. That's the worry. Like the image of players playing too fast. And we've seen Kroos and Modric dispossessed in Clásicos before, but like it took a certain caliber of opponent to do that to us. That may not be the case as much going forward. It might be a lot easier for people to get under our skin. I hate to admit it.
I'm interested in the development of a couple players who might be able to take the mantle here. And again, this is not to take anything from this game, because when we're talking about games like this, to me it kind of feels like preseason in some way. Like it's like, oh, you're just kind of, in this particular case, it was about match fitness and sending Kroos off positively, right? Getting Kepa his goodbye, that was nice to see. Courtois, by the way, didn't concede a goal all season. I know it's a small sample size, but it was like a decent amount of time, right? Like he did really well. But I'm interested in the development of Jude and Güler. Not that Jude needs to develop early. The guy is obviously a machine and he's an amazing player. It's more about like the career arc I'm interested with him. You saw it today too. He has the ability to play in slow motion, kind of like the way Zidane did and the way Kroos does. And he dropped deep quite a bit today too. That's one player I'd look at, kind of like the evolution of him kind of just dropping deeper, especially with the arrival of Mbappe. That'll be interesting to keep an eye on. And Arda Güler is the other one. Arda Güler, because I think he has the progressive passing ability and that ability to kind of play in slow motion and help escape pressure. I know a lot of people, kind of see him as a winger and a player who can play higher up the field, but I have noticed that he has dropped deep quite a few times this season too, and helped escape pressure. So I'm just something to monitor. Let's take another super chat. Oh God, I'm going to try my best here. Our YouTube member Rishikesh Bangale says, this is what it would have felt like when Zidane retired. Absolute tears, finally a legend getting a great tribute in the Bernabeu. Proper goodbye. Yeah, Zidane is one of the shortlisted rare legends that do retire at the club on a high note. But obviously Zidane himself, I don't think was at this level that Kroos was, although Zidane went into that World Cup shortly after and had an unbelievable tournament, apart from the headbutt. So like he obviously was still at a very high level too.
I mean, going back to what you said about, Güler and Jude, I think Tchouaméni is also like kind of an important piece in this puzzle, because his passing, I think, is his long passing mainly. I think is best out of the Jude, Camavinga, Tchouaméni trifecta. Maybe Valverde is probably like very good as well. But I think Tchouaméni, I just think Tchouaméni is going to take more of a role in terms of passing the long balls, going to Carvajal and Mendy on left, maybe Vinicius. I think there's going to be a lot more usage on Tchouaméni next season. I don't think he's going to be as good as Kroos, obviously not. But I think looking at him, tracking his development at that, because he's never really had this big of a role before. I think looking at that would be very, very interesting as well.
Yeah. How about that interesting tactical wrinkle in the 15th minute, 15 minutes 40 seconds, where this press was this man-to-man press was looking very synergistic. No, I'm just kidding. I have no idea what happened in this game. But I honestly don't know what other talking points to extract. Like I have a bunch of notes on Camavinga that I think he was a bit of a mixed bag today. But I just don't know how much to take away from this, good or bad. I think to me it was about match fitness, Kroos' send off, and just keeping an eye on Courtois and Militao. Courtois to me has done enough to earn himself a start in the Champions League final, not only because of his performances since he's come back, but also obviously his track record. Militao, I'm not there yet. Militao has been starting these games in La Liga. I don't think he's ready to start the Champions League final. I'll just throw that out there. I don't think it's a controversial opinion either. I'm just going based on what I've seen. I'm not entirely sure what Carlo will do, but I don't think Militao is ready. Do you guys have any thoughts on Militao?
He's not starting. I don't think. No chance.
Yeah, I don't think he's starting. I think the lineup that Carl put out today is the lineup that plays the Champions League final.
Yeah.
Yeah, Militao, I think he was okay today. I think he still had a bit of a bad decision making, like in 2 or 3 sequences. But this game doesn't matter really. I'm not really going to nitpick on it. But yeah, I don't think Militao is going to start the Champions League final. No.
Yeah, that's all correct to me. All right, guys. Is there anything else that you wanted to discuss other than Luka Doncic absolutely stealing Rudy Gobert's soul last night?
That was crazy, man. That was crazy. Oh my god, I was watching that. I couldn't believe it. Were you watching that live, Hridyam?
No, it was too early in the morning for me, mate.
Yeah. When I'm in India, I'm getting up at 6 watching all those finals games. When Luka beats up on Boston, he better. Listen,
Can't wait.
I just need the Celtics to lose at all costs at this point. And so whatever it takes, man. Whatever it takes. I think 2-0 is good in that context. Like wrap it up in 5 or 6 maybe instead of 7. And
we just have to split one game at home, and I think we're good.
Yeah, I think people underrate Luka's chances of winning the title. He has Kyrie. It's like the Real Madrid LeBron has his LeBron's running mate next to him. What did you think of that game, Kiyan? I mean, there were like 10 lead changes in the fourth. It was one of the best postseason games we've seen this year. Literally, Madrid like keeping them alive with those threes.
I'm just watching highlights in the morning. I didn't actually watch that game live. I just caught up with it after. And this is funny because we were all talking about it on the live call yesterday about Luka Doncic, and then after that, he went and did that. This is just, I'm rooting for him all the way, obviously.
Yeah, I'm glad he looks healthy. I had to watch that game just because like they were down 20, and that's when Dallas games get interesting because they really don't fold. Like they were down in the second quarter and they made a run at the end of the second. I was just watching the end of the second quarter. Do we have a game or is it over? And we had a game. I was like, as soon as they cut it to 12, people were like, Minnesota are screwed. Like they should be up 30. And from there it was bad. Yeah, man, haven't seen Anthony Edwards get so tired. Got to give credit to Kyrie. Just one of the most fun players. Got screwed up by, in my opinion, some stupid rules when he was in Brooklyn. Is the only reason he didn't win a title there, in my opinion. But it is what it is.
Here's a couple things going back to football for a sec to close this out. First time since the 1996-1997 season that Real Madrid have gone undefeated at home all season. The second thing is no injuries today, which is a win. The third thing is, I don't know if you guys tuned into this very important development. Rodri finally lost the game after 474 days. He lost the game.
I just started my morning and then I forgot the game was on. I just assumed they'd lose. The next thing you know, like City lost. I was just like, no way. Like it was one of those surreal moments that didn't feel real. Like one of those stranger than fiction moments again. Like how did that happen? Because that was the worst United season since Ferguson, according to most United fans. Like the worst, like the worst, worse than Mourinho.
Statistically, it was one of the worst. Yeah, I mean it's
like worse than Mourinho, who they all hated because he was a dinosaur. Worse than their dinosaur Ole and all that. It's I couldn't believe it. I mean, did you guys either of you catch that game? It's just like I guess it kind of is fitting because City were not just one, but I would say like a Champions League and an FA Cup removed from last year's team. They just weren't like as good, and just being the Champions League removed might not have accurately said it. And I really don't think they were as good, but not bad enough to lose to United. But I think City have work to do. I just thought that was obvious, even when we beat them.
Yeah, it was a background game for me, but I just thought I just thought it was hilarious that like. It reminded me because this whole thing came out after that. Oh, Rodri finally lost the game, and I just remember like you guys are still going on about this nonsense. He lost. I was there in the stadium. He lost the game. Stop cherry picking what a loss is and what a draw is and what a. Anyways, guys, we got a loaded podcast schedule coming up. So tomorrow is the only day off we have for like the next 8 years. On Monday, we're doing El Dia Después for our members over on patreon.com/Managing Madrid. Or you can just simply hit join underneath this YouTube video if you're on YouTube and be a YouTube member instead. It's the same content you can choose if you don't have Patreon in your country. And then on the 28th, we have a special guest coming on the show, hopefully. I just have to kind of close those details with him after this podcast. And then on the 29th and the 30th, we got 2 back-to-back podcasts for our members exclusively. And then on the 31st, we're doing a Dortmund preview, and Lucas will be in Wembley at the press conferences, so hopefully from there. And then on June 1st, it's the big day. Live from Wembley 1 hour before the game, and then live from Wembley at the final whistle. It's going to be crazy, and we're very active. Sorry for the hiatus. I was traveling a little bit, but I know Sid and Mehdi put out a couple podcasts here and there. We did a Kroos tribute podcast, and now we're back full time. So buckle up. There's a lot of content coming. Sid, thank you. Hridyam, thank you. Listeners, thank you. We'll catch you on Monday. For our members, peace out.